Father. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
You can act like a man! What's the matter with you?
Here's how you turn down a service academy total? You think you can bet the over?
What can I do? What can I do? What is that nonsense? Ridiculous.
Do you bet unders?
Sure I do.
Good.
Because a man who doesn't bet unders can never be a real man.
And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. If you are listening to this later, just go to youtube.com/cover3 and check out more gold from producer Coco with the intro video for this week's locks. This is the week 5 locks. Thanks all of you that are watching live at youtube.com/cover3 and all across the 24/7 Sports Facebook network. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, come and join us in the chat. Alfred Elliott, the Lock Father, hanging out. Bud Elliott, Andy Cannell, Boy Under. We are ready to go. Incredible production there, and we are off and rolling. It's our first Service Academy week, right? Like I'm so enriched with passion for what we have with the Commander-in-Chief's trophy getting off and rolling. A big thank you to Coca for that one. All right, we begin, as we always do, with a brief review of the week that was, and it was a little bit painful. Tom, 2-7 on the week. The wins were Kansas, believe in Kansas, -7, and the Notre Dame team total over, never a doubt. Losses were the Boise, UTEP, over 45.5. Of course, we now have Boise State firing an offensive coordinator, quarterback into the transfer portal. Michigan, -16.5. Maryland, much more frisky than we thought. Florida, Tennessee, under 62.5. Baylor, Iowa State, under 45.5. Iowa, Rutgers, under 34.5. The NIU team total under 13.5, and the Kent State team total under 8.5. 2-7 on the week, 15-20 on the season so far. Tom, thoughts on the week that was?
Last week sucked. The Northern Illinois, they finished with 14 points, but they had those in the second quarter. So they scored 2 touchdowns early, and then Kentucky finally shut them down. That was a bet that, I don't know, if Kentucky hadn't been asleep at the wheel to start the game, I should have won. Kent State just played well against Georgia. I'm going to give them full credit. They scored more than 8.5 points. Not upset about that. Losing the Iowa Rutgers under on a 51-yard field goal that hit the upright and bounced through. Not as bad for those who lost Arkansas +2, or who, I think it was, did they lose the over in that game too on the field goal that hit the top of the upright and bounced out?
Right. But Arkansas lost what would have been our surefire. I think we still cashed it here at 2.5, but +2. Yeah, you're right.
Just that one was a kind of a kick in the teeth. Just, a bad week, a very, very bad week. Thank you, Kansas. Thank you, Notre Dame. Everybody else, kiss my butt.
Somebody we had the Godfather on the intro video this week. Somebody said we should have done the massacre scene to represent what was week 4 for the Cover 3 podcast. It's probably a pretty good call right there. All right, I had a 5-5 week. The wins were that Arkansas +2.5. Happy to have that number. Ohio State -18.5. Never a doubt. The TCU -2. Also a win on the Kansas State +13, and Washington -13.5. Bad loss on North Carolina -1.5. I was also on the losing end of the Iowa Rutgers bad beat and the losing end of Baylor Iowa State. Also took an L with USC -5.5 and Clemson -7, a 6-point win for the Tigers in double overtime. Leaves me on the wrong side of that. 5-5 on the week, 22-13 so far for the season. Danny, 1-7. The lone win was Florida State. I mean, if you're going to get one win, at least the Noles delivered for you. 17.5 was the spread. They absolutely worked Boston College. The loss on the Wake Clemson under, the Tennessee first quarter -3.5, the Oregon Washington State under 57.5, Wisconsin +19, SMU +2.5, Vandy +41, which wasn't that another late one? Were you tracking that? All right, and also Ole Miss Tulsa over 65 was a loss. 1-7 on the week, and that is 19-19 overall. Bud, 5-7 on the week.
It was brutal. My picks all. I mean,
Danny, your Wi-Fi is going in and out. This is good podcasting.
All right, Bud, 5-7 on the week. The wins were the Florida-Tennessee first half under 32, TCU -2, Virginia team total under 21.5, and Troy +3.5, as well as UNLV -2.5. Losses on Clemson -7, Michigan -16.5, Oregon, Washington State under 57.5, Arkansas team total over 23, Oklahoma -12. The Old Dominion Arkansas State over 56.5, and the Baylor team total under 21.5. 5-7 on the week brings you to 31-23 on the season. Where are we at as we turn the page to week 5? Oh, and how are you doing, man? Like, is everybody all right? There was a lot. The chat was coming through for both you and Danny with a lot of support in terms of, hoping you get through the worst of the storm. How's the fam doing at this point?
Man, I'm doing great, about as best you can be. We've had the power flicker and on and off here in Orlando. I looked in my closet today. I'm from Fort Myers. Obviously, if you guys have seen the news down there, to the to the extent the stations weren't wiped out, they're hurting down there, and that's kind of where I consider my home. So, Orlando's just basically until the kids grow up. So I looked in the closet. It's the only thing I had at Fort Myers, my old Fort Myers Letterman jacket. So if you guys are somehow watching down there, kind of doubt it, given nobody has power. We love you, and we're gonna come see you soon. And it'll get better. Just take quite a while. So I'll probably tweet out some ways we can help the community down there coming up. Locks wise, despite Syracuse's best effort to give Virginia the ball inside Cuse's 30 multiple times, that's still cashed. The one that kind of chaps you is Arkansas, right? I mean, they got a quarterback trying to dive in for a score from the 4 on first down. Not really the best idea. Fumble 6 the other way, and then a field goal hitting the top of the goalpost. Guys, honestly, the losses were decisive. Other than that, and the wins were also easily cashing. Other than that, I had a huge day on the money line stuff. Right, won like 6 or 7 units. I think 6 units on that. So. Overall a positive unit weekend, but my ATS record took a loss there, which is sad. But let's get some dubs today, right?
That's right. Danny, sorry, you have renewed your subscription, so we're all good. How are we feeling?
I am better. The locks were like the red wedding scene from Game of Thrones. Ugly. It was brutal. And the thing about it, like, there weren't that many that were good picks. Like the Clemson Wake was just a bad read. I did not see that game unfolding that way. The one game that I would have liked to have back was the Tennessee first quarter -3.5. You guys remember that? They were driving down the field inside the 10. They fumbled going in, and I actually lost personally on that one, so that one hurt a little extra. Usually I do take almost all of these. And then how about the old telling the pitcher he's throwing a no-hitter? 2 of my locks, Sprinkles, had hit, and Chip sent a little text. It was like, man, you're crawling. And then 15 minutes later, oh no, not what happened in Washington State. So other than that, that's why I'm wearing all black. Ready to turn this thing around. And like to echo what Bud said, I'm over in the West Coast a lot for soccer games, golf tournaments. My college roommate, Todd Rebel, who played at Florida State with me, lives in Punta Gorda, which is right, and he's not far from the water. I talked to them. They left. One of my high school buddies lives right there in Port Charlotte, left, and it's bad. And I think the thing that's hardest and having been through hurricanes on the East Coast, they're going to lose power for a long time. It might be weeks before they get power back, and everybody's eyeballs have been on you in that area, and there'll be a lot of prayers and support and attention. But in about 3 or 4 days, the next thing happens and everybody moves on, and you're the program, or you're the place that is sit there left having to rebuild for months. I think it's going to be a long time. So don't forget about them. send what you can do. I think my family and I are going to try to get over there at some point, maybe help with cleanup either through our church or somehow, but definitely going to try to give some funding because they're going to need it. It's pretty ugly over there.
I know a lot of our listeners have probably either, vacationed in Sanibel or, at least probably seen pictures. It looks like the Causeway Bridge is actually out in 3 spots from the photos I could see this morning. So, our prayers go out to him for sure.
No doubt. And again, Bud, I'll count on you, and we'll continue to pass along if any good spots that you think are going to be a good place to contribute. Be sure to follow him on Twitter at BudElliott3 as we're looking at those places on the west coast of Florida. All right, week 4 in the books. Eyes ahead to week 5. Gentlemen, y'all ready to lock it up?
Let's go.
Since 2005, the under in games between service academies is 40-9-1.
Give me an over in this one as well. A little 2-for-1 special.
I was a sicko last week. Y'all were watching videos. I was live betting the hell out of UL in Kentucky.
My blue plate special 5-star locks are coming.
5-star master lock it up.
These locks. I'm living and dying every point, every cover.
All right, we will get started with weeknight and big games here first. Thursday night action. We do have that South Carolina game has been moved to Thursday night. The only other action is Utah State and BYU. Friday night, we've got Tulane and Houston, UTSA, Middle Tennessee, San Diego State and Boise State, Washington and UCLA, and New Mexico and UNLV on the mothership CBS Sports Network for that one, as well as UTSA Middle Tennessee. Watch your boy Danny Cannell in studio for analysis. Thursday, Friday night action. Who's got locks?
I've got a Friday night play. I don't know if you guys have anything on tonight's games, though.
No,
I don't have anything on tonight. No.
All right, I'll start then with the Friday night game. I am taking San Diego State plus 6.5 against Boise. Like, this is Boise. Talked about this a little bit on the Early Edge show with Chip yesterday. Boise's a train wreck right now. Like, they fired their offensive coordinator, which is not surprising considering the offense had been struggling. And then they only scored 10 points against freaking UTEP last week, which, no offense to UTEP, but Boise State should be scoring more than 10 points in a game against them. So they fire their offensive coordinator, but law of unintended consequences, turns out their quarterback pretty fond of their offensive coordinator, apparently, because shortly after that happens, Hank Bachmeier, the team's starting QB, enters the transfer portal. And I feel like maybe that'll be better in the long run. I don't know. But in the short term, it's never a good thing when your starting QB enters the transfer portal after 4 games. And it's probably going to affect them going into this game against San Diego State, which is a team that offensively still not very high on, because you should never be high on a San Diego State offense. But defensively, they're still pretty much San Diego State for the most part. Boise State's offense probably not going to be great this week with a new play caller and a new QB. Give me the Aztecs getting points in the blue turf, where, frankly, Boise is not what it once was. Like, you used to think of Boise playing at home, just a great home field advantage. Since 2019, they're only 6-4 at home straight up and 4-6 against the spread there. Give me the Aztecs.
Lock it up.
Let's go.
I had written this game down as well. A lot of the same philosophy. I covered a Boise State game out in New Mexico, so I watched a lot of the Oregon State game where Hank Bachmeier got benched. Talon Green came in. He's going to start for them in this game. He's very young, very green. He could run. He ran all over Oregon State in that game, but he didn't do a lot throwing the ball. I think San Diego State will have a better plan for him. I think he'll be forced to throw at the air. I think it remains to be seen. And then I was in studio last week for the UTEP game when Boise State got beat, which sent the offensive coordinator packing. It wasn't the offense that was the only problem. UTEP in the second half grinded out the clock. They were pushing around Boise State. Boise State, to me, looks like a team that has checked out on their coach, and this was the ultimate, let me see if I can set a spark. Well, we're about to find out if there's a spark or the team is hung up on Andy Avalos, which I think is probably the more likely scenario. So I like San Diego State here as well.
Yeah, Danny told you here on the Cover 3 podcast that it didn't look good. Smelled fishy after that New Mexico game. Didn't seem like they were firing on all cylinders, and that certainly seems to be the case. I will be on UTSA, Middle Tennessee, over 63. I think that Chase Cunningham, our fifth, sixth year quarterback, the fact that he was spinning it like he was against the Miami defense is not just a Miami defense issue. I think that Middle Tennessee, after the season opener against James Madison, when they got worked, has showed that they've been able to push the ball down the field. And I mean, Frank Harris is leading the nation in total offense right now. He is just absolutely an all-purpose kind of weapon. I think that we see both of these offenses go back and forth. I think it's got a feeling of an old school Cayusa kind of shootout, like back in the day. You got UTSA -4 on the point spread there, and I think that we can get enough touchdowns to be able to get over the key number of 63. So give me the UTSA Middle Tennessee over 63.
I'll get you 62.5 because I like your style.
Let's go. All right.
I like that number. Like agreement.
Yeah.
I agree with everything Chip just said there. Some concerns about UTSA having maybe all 4 of their offensive tackles out still. Like that's been a thing, but they do have 3 very good receivers. Middle Tennessee's offense is coming together under Chase Cunningham. I don't think that the quarterback Harris for UTSA was actually hurt against Texas. I just think they had all 4 of their offensive tackles out and didn't want him to get hurt. So they were like, all right, this is a non-con game, whatever. We can still win CUSA. Let's pull them. I think you'll see a lot of vertical passing in this game. So totally agree.
Love to hear that. Anything else from Friday night?
Yeah.
Yep.
I got one.
Go ahead.
Go, Denny.
I actually have 2 more. I'm going to go to the Rose Bowl, where hopefully there are more than 8,000 fans playing for the, to support the Bruins. They got no excuses, right? It is 7:30 local. Can't complain about traffic. Can't complain about work. Can't complain about wanting to be at the beach. Show up, UCLA fans. But you know who I think does show up? I think UCLA
Washington.
does.
Oh, okay.
I like Washington. It's been a great story. Michael Penix reunited with Kalen DeBoer, but I think this is by far the best defense they have faced. I think this will be really interesting. Michael Penix been incredibly up and down throughout his career, and UCLA, the one game against South Alabama is one of those ones like, but how many times we said on here, Chip Kelly against non-conference opponent, what does he do against conference opponents? I think they'll be dialed in. I think they'll be ready to go. I like the home dog right here. Give me the Bruins catching a field goal at home against the Huskies.
Fight.
Yes.
Fight.
Yeah, I look at who UCLA has played so far this year, and it's a South Al team, which I think is good, but they're like a good Sun Belt team. They faced Bowling Green the week that Bowling Green didn't have their like top receiver and their starting center. They've played Colorado, which potentially has checked out on the season, and I forgot who else. So, we can sit here and say that, okay, maybe Stanford and Michigan State are not that good, but they're at least passable potential bowl teams from the Power 5, and Washington has just disposed of them. I'm going to lay the points here with Washington on the road. I think they'll be able to put up quite a few on UCLA, and I just trust Kalen DeBoer to throw up 5 touchdowns. So if UCLA can put up 6, cool. If not, I'll take my chances.
Danny, do you have any concerns, because this game is on ESPN on Friday night, if Aaron Judge doesn't break the record and move into 7th place all time tonight? Are you afraid that there will be cut-ins during the game that could impact your viewing ability?
Is he how many could he hit tonight to get to the next number that he's got to break? Although he's cleared everybody that's clean. So I think the celebration,
Can I ask you one question, though, about that? And I'm not accusing anybody of anything.
What?
But Sylvester Stallone is 76, and he just came out with a new action movie. Tom Cruise is 60, and he just came out with a new Top Gun. You look at the Marvel movies, there's all these old middle-aged dudes who are in the best shape of their life. Professional athletes are now playing at their peak level into their late 30s and early 40s. You sure? That's all I'm going to ask.
Do they? I mean, do they steroid test for action movie actors?
I'm just saying.
I think they require it, right?
They do in baseball as well as HGH.
Yeah.
Professional athletes.
Adderall's a different story. They do not.
Man, they sure have figured out ways to be better later into their careers somehow, some way. I don't know what it could be.
Nutrition is what Tom Brady tells us.
Yeah, he doesn't eat strawberries. That's what it is. Aaron Judge is staying away from strawberries, and that is why he's having the greatest year of his life in a contract year and is fully healthy after never being healthy before. Anyways, I don't want to make any accusations.
Aaron Judge's mom's kind of tiny. That I was like, that's
like, let's go look at Barry Bonds' size and compare him to how big Aaron Judge is. Just saying. I'm not saying he's on anything. I'm not accusing it. I'm just saying I think we're all being a little naive when we use the, well, these guys are all clean kind of angle to it.
Anything else from Friday night? By the way, I like
more.
the over. Wait, one more? Go ahead for it.
One more for me. It's the game I'll be in studio for. It's and a team that I've covered is New Mexico. They're traveling to UNLV. Boy Under's got to find one that he likes here on the Friday night. I'll go under 43.5. New Mexico's offense is atrocious. It's still struggling. I think they'll get better over time, but not this year. They've got some transfers. Their defense is actually not bad against Mountain West competition. I don't think UNLV, Brumsfield as the quarterback, has had a nice year, but statistically put up a lot of those numbers in one game. I think they could struggle to put up some points against New Mexico's defense. Give me the under in that one. I think it'll be an uglier game, and hopefully it moves fast.
The best I'm seeing is under 42.5 right now, but do you see anything better?
On the
New Mexico UNLV.
42.5 is best I can see out there. There's a couple spots.
I'm rooting for you, Danny. I want that thing over in 2.5 hours.
And the chat is informing me that Aaron Judge is adopted. I did not know that. That shows how much I paid attention to this story.
It's natural. Let's go.
I simply saw what appeared to be a very endearing photo or a photo shoot of Aaron Judge giving the ball to his mom. I thought, oh, that's sweet. And that is the extent of my coverage of this story. Chip Patterson reporting live from the Cover 3 podcast on Aaron Judge's pursuit of history.
I have one more for tonight. And yeah, that's okay. That's interesting on Aaron Judge. I am going to take Tulane. Are there any threes left?
I only saw 2.5. I mean, just
2.5.
All right, let's save it for sprinkles.
Okay, yeah, just jumping on the other side of a Houston team. Talking about early checkout. We need to come up with a hotel sponsorship for the teams that check out early. How about that for brilliant ideas? All right, let's take it on into the big games from Saturday. We'll start with ranked on ranked in the noon slate. Number 7, Kentucky heads to Oxford to take on number 14, Ole Miss. First real test of the season for Lane Kiffin's Rebs. And for Kentucky, a chance to try to reverse what has been a troubling trend since Mark Stoops arrived of the Wildcats not getting it done against SEC West opponents. Ole Miss finds themselves as 7-point favorites. Anyone got a play in this game? And if not, at least a lean or a thought. You play?
I got a play, but do you have a play?
I do have a play, and so does our friend.
Oh, the dentist.
Yeah, of course.
I want to see what the dentist says before I lock anything up.
The dentist is feeling himself here lately, guys. Got to say, hold on. I got a lot of texts, so I don't want to say his real name on the air. All right. This is a long one, so we're going to read it off. Honestly, I was a little surprised with the Ole Miss UK line this week. It looks like early money came in on Ole Miss, pushing it all the way to Ole Miss -7. Here are my thoughts for this one. 1, yes, 5 thoughts. The defense for Ole Miss had its first bad showing of the year, giving up over 260 rushing yards to Tulsa and over 450 total yards. That's, by the way, with Davis Brennan for Tulsa, the QB, who's pretty damn good getting knocked out. Number 2, UK is getting your running back. He didn't use the kid's name, Chris Rodriguez, back this week. Number 3, Otis Reese, maybe Ole Miss's best defensive player, certainly their best guy in the secondary, their stud safety, is out this week with a targeting suspension. Number 4, Ole Miss center Warren will try to play, but he is banged up and had to leave the Tulsa game in the third quarter. Number 5, Kiffin was uneasy during the presser on Monday and sounded more concerned than usual. I think this is when he started talking about the fans in the stands, right? To me, this game just feels like a lower scoring game that may come down at the last session. I have a hard time seeing either of those teams score more than 27 points in this game, and I can see either team winning the game. So take the points and the under. UK +7 is his heavier play, and then under 54 is his other play. Tooth emoji, lock emoji, crown emoji.
I'm also on the under, so I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah. A little dentist agreement 4 out of 5, Dennis agreed that the under 54 in Ole Miss, Kentucky is the way to go. Tom, anything else that you want to add to that analysis?
I mean, I do have some concerns about this what's his name that's going to miss the first half of the suspension. But I just think that if you look at these two teams, Kentucky's offense has really not been all that impressive to me. And getting Rodriguez back will probably help, but still just a running back. And I don't put too much of a boost there at that position. And on the other side, like Ole Miss's offense is just different this year from what it has been. Like they are more explosive in the run game than they are in the passing game to this point. And I'm okay with that because the more you're running the ball, the more the clock's running and so on and so forth. So I think this is going to be an interesting game. I really don't like either side of the spread very much, but I do think the total is just a few points too high. So I'm taking the under 54.
I agree with you on that. I'm going to hear those children sing.
Yeah, let's go. Okay.
I think getting Chris Rodriguez back actually could help this under because it might make Kentucky more inclined to run the ball. And Kentucky's offensive line is not getting anybody back, to my knowledge, this week, and they suck. So compared to normal Kentucky standards, but I don't want Big Blue on me, but they're not any good this year. I mean, like Florida's D-line is average as hell, and they gave them plenty of trouble. If you recall, I lost a team total under on Kentucky's offense because they threw Florida threw 2 pick sixes. And they only had 270 yards of total offense. One of these offenses might get right. I'm not really sure which one it will be. I don't think that both get right. And if both don't get right, one's going to have to get really right to go over this total. Ole Miss is not pushing pace quite as much as they were. I think Kentucky's defense is pretty good still, even though I think J.J. Weaver, the D end, is out again. So give me the under.
Looking at a pair of ranked games in the 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time slate. First, the SEC on CBS Game of the Week features number 2 Alabama traveling to take on number 20 Arkansas. The Crimson Tide are 17-point favorites, over under of 61. Does anybody have a play in this game? Just Chip?
Wait, which one?
Alabama, Arkansas.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Good.
A little 2-for-1 special here. I'm going to go with Arkansas plus the 17, and I will be going with the over 61. I think that it is very valid to be concerned about the home road splits for the Alabama Crimson Tide over the last couple of seasons. And I think that there is going to be an opportunity throughout this game for Arkansas to be able to move the ball, which is surprising because Alabama's defense loaded with stars. You always have a lot of respect for it, but I also have a lot of respect for the Razorbacks offense, which contributes to my over 61 as 42-35 a year ago. Bryce Young did throw for 559 yards, a lot of that to Jamison Williams and John Mechie. I think that Ja'Cory Brooks could end up continuing his breakout from the Vanderbilt game and having a good performance against that Arkansas defense, which, as we have discussed many, many times on this podcast, you can get them in terms of the secondary and in terms of the pass defense. So with KJ Jefferson, Rocket Sanders sort of going back and forth with Bryce Young, I see a game that is high scoring, but probably more of a 10 to 14 point Alabama win. So 2-for-1 special. Arkansas plus 17 over 61.
Again, I like the cut of your jib, so I'm giving you 17.5 and 60.5.
Yeah.
Nice. I want one of those. So lock agreement with Chip on the plus 17.5.
On 17 and a half?
Yeah. So I think that this is the best offensive line Alabama will have faced, right? I'm not fully convinced that their secondary concerns that they showed in the Texas game are fixed. We don't really know if they're fixed because they have not played even a marginally decent passing offense since they faced Texas, right? And they didn't look very good against Texas defensively in the back end, especially when Ewers was in there. I do think that this can be a big quarterback rushing day, potentially. A little concerned that Arkansas is one of the guys that rotate playing center might be out, but I don't think that the defense is more injured, right? I think it kind of bottomed as far as all the injury stuff. They're not getting Catalan back. They have Schuler back. So 17.5 is a big number to lay on the road. Also, if Arkansas, if the meritorious outcome of the A&M game was reflected, right? Like who played better in that game? Okay. If the correct team, based on how they actually played, not crazy fumble luck and stuff, won the game, what is this number? I think it's probably like 15 or 15.5, not 17.5. So I think we're getting about 1.5 of value here.
I could not agree more. The thing I was thinking, if that fumble return, scoop and score, whatever you want, handoff, whatever you want to call it, goes the other way, it's 21-7. That game could have been sideways if Texas A&M had to start throwing it the way their offense has been sputtering. Arkansas leads the country in sacks. The one thing we've seen from Bryce Young, he's very patient, but he doesn't like it. No quarterback likes to get hit. He could not be the Bryce Young that we know that we've seen for 60 minutes. We might get it in the last 2 minutes, but that's what I hope. Maybe you see that magic and he has to bring him back and has to score a touchdown late or at least extend the lead. But I think this game will be inside the 17.5 for sure. So I like this matchup.
This is from the Bear, who tweeted this morning. Alabama's last 5 true road games in which they were favored by an average of 18.5 points each. Florida, 14-point favorites, 131-29. Texas A&M, 18.5-point favorites, lost 41-38. Mississippi State, 17.5-point favorites, 149-9, blew them out. Auburn, 20.5-point favorites, 124-22. Against Texas, 21.5-point favorites, 120-19. I'm not joining you on the unity, but the trend is in your favor.
As our friend Hakeem Dermish says, the trend is our friend. Also ranked on ranked in the 3:30 p.m. Eastern time slate, we have Oklahoma State hitting the road to take on Baylor. Baylor's a 2-point favorite at home, over under a 56.5. Anyone getting in on the rematch of the Big 12 title game? Okay.
I will.
Yeah, go ahead. You go first on this one.
It feels like we haven't seen Oklahoma State very much, right? They've only played 3 games.
Played nobody.
But when we've seen them, Spencer Sanders has been the best version of Spencer Sanders because his career has been incredibly up and down, right? In the last 2 games last year, Big 12 championship game, we saw the worst version. Bowl game against Notre Dame, we saw the best version, which has propelled him into this season. You've still seen a lot more of the best version. I think this is the great chip on the shoulder. We should have won the Big 12 championship game type of mindset. I like the Cowboys in this spot. Give me the 2.5.
Fight.
Danny engaging in a lock fight with me.
One.
Are you sure? I hate to do this to you. I mean,
What's the record?
Well, I especially because I'm coming at it with a 2-for-1 special. I mean, this is like right out of the Danny playbook. Pick your winner, pick the game script, how you think it's gonna go. So I am on Baylor -2, and a little bit of the they ain't played nobody mindset. The Baylor has been tested. Baylor's gone through injury issues. They've gone to Provo and had to play in overtime. They got caught in a sticky situation out there against Iowa State. They know who they are when it comes to really getting tested. Oklahoma State's best win is against Arizona State when they still had Herm. Like that, I don't know if Oklahoma State has really faced adversity. I think that Baylor, in a game that's going to be close, is more prepared to deal with and know who they are, the kind of challenges that are going to come from what I think is a great matchup, and a great matchup that's going to go under the total. So my 2-for-1 special is to take Baylor to win this game at home and to take both defenses to bow up, to see our offenses play a little bit more ball control. I don't think Oklahoma State is going to have the kind of offensive success that they've had so far against these lesser opponents. So my 2-for-1 special is Baylor and the under. And is there still a 56.5 on the board?
Yeah, there's plenty of 56.5s for you.
56.5. Love that right there. So yeah, I'll take that under as well. All right, let's keep it rolling with the big games from Saturday. Also ranked on ranked in the 3:30 slate. And get yourself some screens. Number 22, Wake Forest. Number 23, Florida State. Florida State 7-point favorites, over under 63.5. Danny Cannell coming for Dave Clawson, getting his Thursday started right, riling up the locals.
Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
Vanderbilt. Jeez.
We were sitting around having a bonfire, really enjoying our preparation for week 5. And here comes Danny with an aerosol can, just throwing it right into the middle of that, trying to get Tallahassee fired up. Are you going to lock it up too? You're going to go all the way?
It's still at 6.5, right?
There's 6.5 and 7 out there.
I will go ahead. I'll take the Seminoles laying the 6.5. They were my one win last week. I was nervous to touch them early in the season, starting to gain more confidence in them. Wake Forest, emotional game coming off. And you know what? Like when you're not sure of what's going to happen, it can be very distracting. I think Florida State's had their eye on this game. They're living in the state of Florida is a little bit different than out. Like all you see is the national coverage. If you live in Florida, you're a little bit used to it about, hey, we're probably going to play this game. Like there's a lot of things that could happen, but it's all the way on Saturday and Monday. Why are we talking about worrying about food and water when you're a week away from the game? And by the way, I think Dave Clawson has actually helped the Seminole faithful in this one by wondering what's going to happen. And is this going to look like Vanderbilt? I think we'll find out Saturday at 3:30 just what it's going to look like. I think the place is going to be rocking. I think people come back to support the team. I think the students come back too. But more importantly, I think this team is playing with a different mindset. I really do. We're seeing, it was Johnny Wilson first. Now we're seeing them spread the ball around. They've got depth at receiver, guys that can catch. We've got depth at running back. And as they get healthier and Jordan Travis continues to improve, I really like this Florida State team. So I'll go ahead and take it, lay the 6.5.
Are there any 63s out there on this?
Let me see.
Are you looking to take that over?
Yeah.
I'm not going to stand in the way of that. That sounds like a very good
not
play.
that I can see. It's actually up to 64 some places.
All right, well, give me that 63.5 before it moves anymore. I don't have any confidence in FSU's pass rush. I don't think Wake Forest defense is any good. I think these teams will score on each other in this game and be in the 80s. I don't think the weather's going to be a factor. Who's rushing the passer for FSU, right? Like Clemson can now look. Clemson had some major problems in their secondary last week because they didn't have their starters. They were playing a bunch of true freshmen and some true sophomores or redshirt freshmen, and they got mossed. But Wake Forest has the best receiving core in the ACC, I think. So give me the over. And again, like Jordan Travis, when healthy, they have not even had to run him yet, so he'll probably be a little bit healthier this week. I think he will have a good day scoring in this one. And I think they're up and down the field on each other all day.
Speaking of those Clemson Tigers in the primetime slate, another ranked on ranked battle in the ACC Atlantic. Number 10 NC State at number 5 Clemson. Clemson a 6.5-point favorite, over under of 43. Anybody getting in on this one? Let me snap up that over right now. This is ridiculous. They had this thing at 40.5. Number one, I don't think that the way I've been looking at my spaghetti charts, the most important thing about this hurricane is making sure that we don't forget about, everybody in the storm's wake. Also, we're continuing to track it to see when is it going to be where. And when is it going to be where? The storm's picked up a lot of speed. This thing is not going to be sitting over Death Valley. It's kind of, going to be taking on moving its business elsewhere. And so I think that we are going to see, especially by Saturday night, more appropriate field conditions, more appropriate game conditions, or at least more, similar to the simulation. And while these are, two defenses, an NC State offense that's very conservative, a Clemson offense that in big games, we always talk about big game Dabo, has been conservative. This number is way, way too low for the two quarterbacks that we've got in play. Some of the athletes that we have on the field. I look at this and I just see that this is going to be one where both teams are able to get to 20, 21 or more. And so we're going to end up going over.
I don't like you anymore. So the best I'm going to do for you is 42.
Okay.
Lock agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you need to be playing back against all these over moves that steamed early in the week to the under out of hurricane concerns. Not all of these games are going to have crazy weather.
Lock it up. My inclination was to go with Clemson and lay the points, but I like the over better. Like you guys know how I felt about that game for DJU, like what it means for him personally to get off some of those backers. I think you're going to see a more freed up version of him. I think you'll see him continue to operate in this offense very efficiently. I think they'll put up big numbers. and the secondary was really, really bad. The reason I liked Clemson, I'm not going to lock it up, but NC State, like, I don't know. Devin Leary was the top quarterback coming back. I thought he was going to be spectacular. He's been average against their two better opponents in Texas Tech and against East Carolina. A little bit concerned that they might not live up to their end of the bargain, but that secondary, as I mentioned, I think Wiggins was, man, did they find him, like find the duck. They were just picking on him. It was pretty bad. So I think they'll get theirs too. But I think Clemson's offense will put up a majority of these points.
They had 2 chances to punch it in against ECU, and they couldn't get those hard yards. It was chilling, and it was a note that I took, and it hasn't come up again since. But will be very interesting. Again, I'm not going to make a play on the spread because I could easily see this thing being a field goal game. I don't see Clemson losing. I think they end up winning outright, but NC State's a good enough football team that I think that they can keep this close, but both teams will score. We go over. Coming up on the other side, we just let the whole board loose. The rest of our Week 5 locks and Moneyline Sprinkles next.
You can't stop. You can't stop. You can't stop. You can't stop my come on. Yeah. I'll battle anybody right now. I'm the answer to the throne like the bond. That's the path that I'm on. I'm on the come up. We on the come up. This is the come up. Hey.
It is not just a song. It is a statement.
Come up. Hey.
Boom. You got it, didn't you?
I'm on the come up. This is the come up.
Rated PG-13. Now streaming on Paramount Plus.
So far on the board, Tom's got San Diego State plus 6.5 and the under 54 in Kentucky Ole Miss. I've got the over 62.5 in UTSA Middle Tennessee, the over 60.5 in Arkansas, Alabama, the Arkansas plus 17.5, Baylor -2, Clemson, NC State over 42, and the Oklahoma State Baylor under 56.5. Danny's got San Diego State plus 6.5, UCLA plus 3, the New Mexico UNLV under 42.5. Arkansas plus 17.5, Oklahoma State plus 2.5, the Clemson NC State over 42, and Florida State -6.5. Bud's got UTSA Middle Tennessee over 62.5, Washington -2.5, Kentucky Ole Miss under 54, Arkansas plus 17.5, Wake Florida State over 63.5, Clemson NC State over 42. Lock agreement on San Diego State plus 6.5. And the over 62.5 in UTSA Middle Tennessee, as well as lock agreement in Kentucky Ole Miss under 54. Lock fights on UCLA Washington and Baylor Oklahoma State, and lock unity on Arkansas plus 17.5 and the over 42 in Clemson NC State. Tom.
Oh, am I allowed to go finally?
Yeah, let's get a peek at that card.
You big game basics have been dominating the entire show, leaving me over here with my real bets. Like, how did you not include Navy Air Force in the big games, Chip? You hate America?
Danny steals Tom's bit about unders. Now Tom's going to steal my sicko mode bit. Like, what are we? what am I going to steal? Chips dancing?
Right. So, Tom, why don't you go ahead and get us rolling, because the true also applies to the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, which are beginning the 51st year of the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. Air Force and Navy have combined for 36 of the 45 outright wins, Air Force with 20, Navy with 16. And every year from 1997 to 2016, the winner of Air Force Navy would go on to win the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. And Tom, what do we do when service academies play each other?
We bet the under, Chip. Although I will start this off by saying I do fear that our service academy under principle is on borrowed time at this point, because the totals are getting lower and lower and lower, and eventually it's going to run out. But until it does, we are not going to give up on our service academy unders, because since 2005, when service academies play, the under is 41, 9, and 1. And it is a very basic principle. They all run the option. They rarely throw the ball. Air Force has run the ball on 88% of its plays this season. Navy's at 83%. Army's somewhere in the middle, I think 84. Nobody else in the country has run the ball more than 69%. Nice. So when you run the ball constantly, the clock never stops. Clock never stops. It limits overall possessions. You limit overall possessions, you limit scoring opportunities. You limit scoring opportunities, you limit points. Therefore, not many points are scored in this game. This game will be over in 2.5 hours. It will not feature very many points, although I do live in something of a fear that Air Force might put up 37 on its own against Navy, but Navy gave me a little bit more confidence last week with its win over East Carolina. They looked much better than the team we saw in their first couple games of the season. So we are locking it up. Air Force, Navy, under 37.5. They will not disappoint us like Rutgers and Iowa did.
Anybody else getting in on it?
I'm not getting in front of that freight train, but I can't quite get their numbers wise.
The fact that the books are catching up is truly depressing.
Mm-hmm.
They're paying attention. They're listening to Cover 3 pod.
I'm the one who's been barking about it for the last 5 years now, and they finally realized it. But still, just yeah.
Okay, so what, Danny? How are you doing on your card? How many do you have left?
I got a few. I need to get some unders out there. Let me go.
Boy under.
Yeah, let me go to the Oklahoma TCU game, which is taking place at noon, 11 a.m. local there at Amon G. Carter Stadium. Oklahoma's coming off a game. They gave up a bunch of points, right? It was like, oh, what happened to Brent Venables? Thought he was the defensive guru. Well, Adrian Martinez happened. Rushed for 4 rushing touchdowns. I think their defense rebounds stronger against a team that doesn't have a quarterback that's going to run it as much, and Max Duggan at TCU. I'm going to take the under in this one. 68.5 is too much for me. I kind of like TCU in the game as well, but I'm not going to take that one. I'm just going to take the under. I just like the Big 12, there's a lot of parity there. And if you've got a home team that's like around a touchdown or 6.5, where this one is, I kind of feel like these will be some, field goal, like really tight games. But I'm gonna go ahead and take the under because I think Oklahoma's defense plays a little bit better, and I think it'll stay under that number.
Fight.
Somebody said earlier their picks went to crap, so now they're turning on each other in the chat.
I was going to put this one out as an over anyway. Like I will say that this is not just a screw with Danny. I think TCU's offense is for real. I bet TCU to win the Big 12 in the preseason at 28-1. They're down to 8-1. So I would really like TCU to win this game. Not certain that they do, but I just think that they can score 30 and maybe more. And I think Oklahoma can score something that starts with a 4. So it wouldn't shock me if this game is played in the 80s, right? I don't think that Oklahoma's defensive line is all that great. And maybe they can affect the passer here and win in blowout fashion. I don't know, like 40-20 or something like that. But I definitely don't think TCU's D line is going to do much to Oklahoma. So I think they'll both score quite a bit.
Sonny Dykes might just be an over king right now. We'll see. That game's fascinating. Maybe a little bit more on that later. Tom, why don't we go back to you? Let's keep filling it out.
I'm going back to the well. I mean, we've already gone with the Service Academy under. We might as well go with another team that has been cashing for me constantly. Our Cover 3 podcast team of the month for September. A home dog? You're giving points to Kansas at home against Iowa State? Give me Kansas +3. Kansas is better than Iowa State. Sorry, you might not want to hear it if you're an Iowa State fan, but they are. Kansas is what you thought Iowa State was the last few years, whereas meanwhile, I look at the Cyclones, don't get me wrong, they're not bad. I still think they're a good team, but they are not as good as they have been in recent seasons. They're coming back to earth. I think there's a lot of youth on the offensive side of the ball. They've lost some experience, and they've had some trouble kind of adjusting to that, and the offense is lacking because of it. Kansas, meanwhile, has one of the most explosive offenses in the country. I think they will be able to move the ball against this Cyclones defense. I think they will be able to score more points than the Cyclones, which is the more important part. But instead of a money line sprinkle, I am going to hedge on the fact that as much as I love this Kansas team and how good I think Kansas is, it is still Kansas. So I will take the security of the extra 3 points.
Fight again.
What?
Fight.
I don't know. Maybe like I've not had a ton of time to prep this stuff this week, so maybe I'm just really off. I respect Tom and Danny, but I just, what's the best defense Kansas has faced? probably
Virginia,
without its corners. Right.
Wait, Danny, are you in on Kansas too?
No, I think he was saying just the fights we got out there.
I think Deckers will throw for a lot in this game. I'm not really sure Kansas's defense is any good.
It's not, but their offense is great.
Their offense is really good. We've seen 4 games of it now with Daniels. I do think that Iowa State's defense is a little bit better. They got screwed last week by some of these early calls against Baylor. I mean, like that, having that safety ejected for targeting, and then Baylor went right at the replacement multiple times. Obviously, he's going to be back because thankfully it's only a 1-game ejection. I think they can throw the ball on Kansas pretty good, and I think they will get enough stops to win by 10.
Okay. I'm going to go to Iowa City, where we've got number 4 Michigan in town. Things got a little bit slimy against those pesky Turtles. Michigan, 11-point favorite, over under 42. What do we do when we see Iowa? We take the under. 42 is too many daggum points. If you think that this is going to be a spot where top 5 teams go to die, it ain't going to be because all of a sudden Iowa's offense starts lighting up the Wolverines' defense. If you think there's anything close to an Iowa cover in mind, then this thing is going to be decided in the teens. So I'm going to go with the outcome either being Iowa keeps it close or Michigan wins handily. I think Jim Harbaugh is more than happy to play that field position, conservative ball control kind of game, and we go under the key number of 42.
I can get you 42.5.
Let's take it.
I have a play in this game as well. It is not on the total. It's on Iowa plus 11. I took Michigan last week. They did not cover. They did not look great against Maryland. And frankly, what stood out to me was just their pass rush, which had dominated in the earlier games against really bad competition, did not fare nearly as well against Maryland's offensive line, which I give Maryland's offensive line credit for the way they played. But it's also a concern going forward against better teams. And I think Iowa, while we can make fun of its offense all we want because it's bad, I don't think their offensive line is terrible. And I also think that Michigan offensively last week, like, they were very much over-reliant on Blake Corum breaking off big plays. I think Iowa's defense is going to be better against the run than Maryland's was. I think J.J. McCarthy at times was holding on to the ball a little too long, and he's still learning out and figuring out how to play against good defenses. And this is going to be Michigan's first road game. And Iowa on the road is tough. And just to drive that point home a little bit further, like, top 5 teams going to Kinnick doesn't work out well. The last 6 times, 2008, Penn State, lost 24-23. Michigan State, number 5, lost 37-6. 2016, number 2 Michigan, 21-point favorite, lost 14-13. In 2017, Penn State went in as the number 4 team and won 21-19, but it was on the very last play of the game that they scored to win. 2017, again, Ohio State, number 3, goes into Kinnick and loses 55-24. Got its ass kicked. Last year, Penn State, number 4, goes to Kinnick, loses 23-20. I don't know if Michigan is going to lose, but these are the games that have made the Hawkeyes what they are. These are the games that have given Kirk Ferentz all the time and all the power to hire his son to just have the team go nowhere on offense for 3 hours every Saturday and be fine and not be in any sort of hot seat or trouble as it is. I think Iowa is going to make this a miserable day for Michigan, whether the Wolverines win this or not. Give me the Hawkeyes plus 11.
I almost pulled the trigger, man. I really like reconsidering the schedule that Michigan's played. Obviously, every game that Colorado State plays, you have to downgrade them further. So there's a real chance that Michigan played 3 of the worst 4 teams in college football because they haven't played FIU, but they did play UConn, they did play Hawaii, and they played Colorado State. So, it's hard for me to see Iowa moving the ball, man. They really didn't move the ball against Rutgers last week. And it's an Iowa play. You got to hold your nose and bet it if you're going to bet it. I'm going to pass. Damn it, Tom. I don't have the balls to do it.
Lock it up.
Oh!
They have its first road game for J.J. McCarthy as a starter. Again, this was kind of why I liked him last week against Maryland. you got to see what he's made of. No Cade McNamara still. There's no security blanket. I don't think Blake Corum's going to run for 243 yards against Iowa's defense, so you don't have the security blanket of a nice rushing attack. I think it's to be an ugly game. I like Iowa here as the home dog. I got one more for you, then I got to bounce. I'm going to go to Minnesota, where Purdue is coming to town. The Boilermakers easily could be 4-0. They had heartbreaking loss at home to Penn State. Really good team. We all think they're really good, if not for a Sean Clifford drive at the end of the game. If it wasn't for a Garrett Schrader touchdown pass as time expired on the road at Syracuse, they could have won that game. There's too many points for me. Now, this is assuming Aiden O'Connell comes back, but even if he doesn't, I still give him a chance within this number to cover this one. Minnesota, too, some of their wins. Good, but not looking as good recently. I think Purdue's better than 12. What's it, 12? 12 and a half?
12 and a half.
12 and a half. Give me them points.
This number is assuming O'Connell does not come back, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I would think so, too.
You're not giving Minnesota a full three points for home field advantage. So, the implied neutral site, if you don't, is like Minnesota 10 and a half. Like, there's no way they're 10 and a half over O'Connell playing. I think they're capping this number at O'Connell not playing. Unless you guys think Minnesota is way better than O'Connell Purdue.
Michigan or Minnesota would probably beat Georgia, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Tanner Morgan or PJ Fleck, who knows? Can you even tell them apart anymore? As he gets older and he gets younger and they're both bald. I don't know. I can't tell them apart. All right. All right. See you, Danny. All right. So Purdue plus 12 and a half. All right. Let's see. How many? I've got 1, 2, 3 left plus sprinkles.
I've got 4 plus sprinkles.
I have 3.
Okay. Tom?
All right. I will start with a basic play. Well, at least a Power 5 play before I go full blood sicko mode. But this is an under. I am taking the under 57.5 in Texas Tech, Kansas State. Just think that total is a little too high. I also think that it'll be a little bit windy on the plains come Saturday, which is going to impact us. And I just think that, honestly, coming off of last week against Oklahoma, wouldn't be shocked if Kansas State has a bit of a letdown offensively, or maybe at least tries to slow things down. I think Texas Tech, coming off of Texas last week, there's a chance they have a little bit of a letdown. So it's like a letdown battle. And when there's a letdown battle, usually teams don't score a ton of points. So give me the under 57.5.
It's gonna be windy in Manhattan. All right. What about, let's go super basic. And somebody in the chat earlier said that Bud woke up and put violence into his Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to go with a what I think might be a kind of a violent result. The kind of game where I want to watch the first half. I want to see what I need to see. And then I want to be able to tune out of it, because the way that Georgia messed around with Kent State sure seems like they might do some nasty things to Missouri. And I think that 28 might not be enough points. I don't think Missouri is going to score many of them. And I think there's going to be a emphasis on execution and limiting sloppy plays in a way that has the Bulldogs coming out with a real fire to them. I think this one gets ugly and sideways. Give me Georgia. If there's a 27.5, obviously I'll take it, but I think they win this thing by 30. So I'll take it at 28.
Best I can do is 28.
Is it standard procedure to pull your school affiliations off your Instagram for being injured, or do you think there's more to that story?
That's right. We might have some situations with the best offensive weapon.
Somebody was in his feels after last week's game.
Yeah, because lock agreement, Chip.
Yes.
Let's go. Yeah, I'm still friendly. I think Georgia will score in the 40s, and I'm not really sure Missouri is going to score a touchdown.
Georgia under in this game, I wouldn't hate either. But the thing that I am the most confident in is that Georgia is going to blast Missouri. There is Missouri with the hangover, with the, as you mentioned, questions about buy-in thanks to social media sleuths. But really, the Georgia position is where I'm launching off from. The same Kirby Smart that shows that kind of fire deep into the fourth quarter of blowouts. It's not happy with the way that things went in that 39-22 win against Kent State. I think that in this true road environment, Georgia brings its best. So yeah, I will lay those points. Love having Bud on board as well. Bud, where do you want to go next?
Well, you just talked about Kent State. So we had him on the show. Shout out, Sean and Andrew, Jeremiah, and the whole Kent State staff for coming on. I thought it was a fun episode. And guys, I think they're going to win the MAC title. And I think that starts this weekend. And so I'm going to 11 is a big number. And I like this one to open, and I still like it. So go ahead and give me Kent State. And you know what? I guess MAC games are technically sicko mode, but I think Kent State's good enough to where they're not going to be sicko mode anymore. But go ahead and lay those 11 points with me. Play that music.
It's time for sicko mode. Let's go. I'm a little bit lower on some of the teams in the bottom of the Sun Belt. If things go wrong, they could be like UMass UConn. That's kind of like sicko mode of a sicko mode.
Yeah, I like their offense. I am not really sold on Ohio after watching them a couple times. So I think they will throw up, 40. And I think the defense will hold Ohio to something in the 20s. So that would be a cover for me there. I also have one more sicko mode. Can we go, or do anybody join me on this first?
It's time for sicko mode. Let's go. I'm a little bit lower on some of the teams in the bottom of the Sun Belt. If things go wrong, they could be like UMass UConn. That's kind of like sicko mode of a sicko mode.
All right, I'm officially declaring a P5 game sicko mode here. And specifically, this is a team total for this P5 team. It's a team that I have been betting against every single weekend because I thought they were complete nonsense in the offseason. It is the Auburn team total under. Specifically, Auburn's offense is hot garbage, right? They also lost their other center this week. So don't really think that is a good thing because what do we hear in the preseason? They like the starters if they stay healthy. They don't like the backups. Well, guess what? We're into the backups now, boys. And they have Robbie Ashford, which is basically glorified Wildcat. He doesn't really throw it around very much. And LSU also gets Joe Focha. I think I'm saying that right. Pretty good safety for Arkansas. They got in the transfer portal this offseason. He had to do the 4-game sit out for academics or whatever it was, eligibility stuff that a couple of these kids across the nation have had. He gets back this week. I trust Matt House to get this thing done defensively. So I think the best play in this game is a sicko mode under 19 or 19 and a half. Give me 19. I don't want to take half points that not everybody can get.
Okay.
Auburn team total under. On Saturday night in Wallace Wade Stadium, Mike Elko is about to deliver an ACC win as Duke plays host to Virginia. What do we know about this Duke team? We know that Riley Leonard has been able to provide some exciting offense for a group that I thought was going to be a little bit behind schedule. And we know that defensively, they've got a lot of solid veteran presence. And with Mike Elko, this is a group that's going to be prepared. Virginia's offensive line is bad. Brennan Armstrong has got to wish that he had jumped into the transfer portal along with Robert Anai and, Vic Oluwatimi. But that's not the case. This Virginia offense has allowed Bud to cash some team total unders, and they are not going to be able to score enough to win this game. I've got a short number, so I'll take it. Duke -3 against the Wahoos.
I'll get you 2.5.
Oh, yeah. Let's go.
No, I think I'm not locking it up, but I do feel we've done it enough. Like fading Virginia right now is generally a smart thing to do. I've got 3 plays left. I'm going to go to the MAC. I'm going to do rapid fire on a couple of these here. A couple of unders in the MAC. Again, it's a breezy afternoon in the Midwest this weekend. The under 59.5 in Northern Illinois Ball State and the under 56.5 in Central Michigan Toledo. Just a couple of wonders for you.
Cross wins too?
Oh, yeah.
13-15, somewhere around there. Oh, man. Good
Do
stuff.
we think Lombardi is playing?
I don't know, but if he is, I still don't think that we're going to see NIU throwing very much. And if he isn't, I know we're not going to see NIU throwing very much. So I just feel like, with that matchup and then just with the weather conditions that are expected, I'm not expecting it to be a very high scoring game.
I kind of like that Toledo one. Not enough to lock up, but that makes a whole lot of sense, Tom, to me.
Okay, I think I'm tapped out until sprinkles.
Do you have any left, Bud?
I do, actually. Yeah. I have one left. So this is a team that I have bet against in recent weeks in Nebraska, but they have a team coming to town that I erroneously claimed was the worst Power 5 team east of the Rocky Mountains, which is not true because Northwestern is east of the Rocky Mountains. But I think Indiana is the second worst team in the Power 5 east of the Rockies. We are laying a number under a touchdown. I can't figure out why. Indiana's defense is not good and their offense is not good. Nebraska's defense is not good, but this is a pretty good offense. And if I'm a coordinator on that staff, I'm playing for myself, right? If I'm Mark Whipple, I want to get some points. So I think Whipple's boys will go out there and chuck the ball all over Indiana. Indiana probably should have 2 more losses now. They were not the better team against Illinois. They were certainly not the better team against Western Kentucky. They have been running. They kind of just been run good, right? But not deserving, not deserving, not meritorious, if we're going to just use that word over and over again on this show, I guess. So go ahead and give me Nebraska. What's the best number I get her? 4.5?
4.5, yep.
Yeah, I think Nebraska wins going away.
All right. Tommy, you done?
I've got one more. Chip,
right,
you played the drop earlier, but do you know where it's going to be windy this weekend?
Oh, should I just do it then and not even have to unedited? Just the pure, the raw, the uncut, straight into your ear holes. Oh, wrong one. It's gonna be windy in Laramie.
Yeah, big shocker. It is going to be very windy in Laramie this weekend. The breezes are going to be blowing through. And we are taking the under 42.5 in Wyoming, San Jose State. Wyoming is a team that has changed a lot since I first saw it in that week 0 game against Illinois. I think it's figured some things out offensively, but it is still a deliberate offense, an offense that is never really in a hurry to get things done. It is also a very stingy defense. So you combine that against San Jose State with the weather. I think 42.5 might be asking a little too much from these offenses. So lock it up.
Let's go. All right. Let's take it on to the big old cash register. Bud, why don't you get us started?
Can I go last on this? I'm just kind of behind today with the whole
sure
hurricane stuff.
I'll go first.
Go for it, Tom.
My first, I've got 4. The first one is I am going to take this team that I've been kind of against all season long too, but like Bud's doing with Nebraska, sometimes you got to know when it's time to change direction because sometimes people overreact to what they have seen from teams. Listen, no disrespect to Mississippi State, who I think has played well, but I don't. You could be favored in this game, but you shouldn't be favored as large as you can. So give me Texas A&M plus 150. My second sprinkle is on a team that just picked up a big win in the Big Ten last week. Put out a graphic on Twitter proclaiming themselves as Chicago's MAC team. Give me the Miami Redhawks. Let's see what the best number I can get right now is at plus 105. So barely against Buffalo. Another team I think is actually kind of figuring out. I took Arizona last week and I watched that game closely. Cal's offense might not be awful. It might not
agree with you on that. Yeah.
They kind of look pretty frisky with the ball in their hands last week. So I'm taking Cal as road dogs against Wazoo. The best number I can get there that I can see is plus 160. And then finally, to finish it off, Illinois plus 225 on the road in Madison. I think Wisconsin is the better team. I think Wisconsin wins this game more often than not. I do not think Wisconsin wins this game often enough to justify Illinois getting plus 225 on the money line. The Illini are better than the Badgers in some areas. And frankly, the Wisconsin defense that we're used to seeing, I don't think it's of the same level that we are used to seeing in recent years. I think that there's some holes in there that maybe Illinois will exploit. And if Illinois takes care of the football, which is a big question mark for Illinois because they have turned the ball over far too many times the last couple games, but if they take care of the football, I think Illinois can go into Madison and pull off the upset. So give me Illinois plus 225.
All right. I'm sorry. I don't have the prices here. I'll take TCU over Oklahoma.
Okay, let's see the best I can get.
I think that you've got a good enough TCU team, and an Oklahoma team coming off that Kansas State loss that they might be vulnerable, might end up. What's the old phrase they say? Getting beat twice.
Mm-hmm.
something like that. I'll also take Kansas, because believe in Kansas. I will also be on Illinois because not only is it Brett Bielema revenge game, but Wisconsin can't beat Illinois. I'm just saying Wisconsin can't beat Illinois. And finally, my fourth moneyline sprinkle, in addition to TCU, Kansas, and Illinois, is the wouldn't it be hilarious play of the week. Because as AJ McCarron is out here in these streets telling everyone that his sources, his sauces, are telling him that Brian Harsin has already been informed that he will be fired at the end of the season. And as Auburn is losing bodies left and right, pets' heads falling off status with this roster and this injury report, nothing would be more hilarious than seeing Brian Harsin continue to win, or at least as an 8-point dog take down LSU in primetime at home. So my wouldn't it be hilarious play of the week is a moneyline sprinkle on the Auburn Tigers, because just when you think it couldn't get any worse, that slithery Brian Harsin figures out a way to sneak off to Mexico and go get Auburn a victory. So yeah, give me Auburn as the wouldn't it be hilarious play. TCU, Illinois, Kansas, and Auburn.
TCU 215, Illinois. I think Tom already has that one. 235 looks like the best. Auburn is
at 250 for Auburn.
I got a 270 at an actual book in Vegas.
Oh, okay, cool.
All right.
Danny's sprinkles are Purdue plus 360. Ooh, going big on this. Minnesota's got line too big. Cal plus 167. He's with you, Tom, and he is also on TCU plus 215. So Danny's sprinkles, Purdue, Cal, and TCU. Right now we're starting to find some TCU and some Cal support here. Bye, bud.
Kansas 135 for Jordan for updating the scroll.
Okay.
All right, I've got a couple here. So go ahead and give me Tulane plus 125 going to Houston. They won a couple impressive ball games. Did beat Kansas State. I thought they were a little fluky to lose last week to Southern Miss. So I actually think they could be a small favorite in this game. I wouldn't argue with it. San Diego State for me, as we already discussed earlier in the broadcast. There's a whole lot of variance with both these teams. And when I have a situation like that with that much uncertainty, I really don't have confidence in either. I don't think anybody should be favored by that much over another. So give me plus 230 on San Diego State. And Oregon State is another one here going to Utah. I thought Oregon State actually played all right last week. I was somewhat impressed with their defense against USC. I really didn't like what I saw from Utah's offense going into Arizona State. Didn't finish drives offensively in the red zone. And I think Oregon State can win the game outright. So go ahead and give me, 315 is best I see on them. And finally, here's one. We've been on South Alabama a lot, but this is a big price to be laying, man. And I don't know. Plus 275. Give me the Raging Cajuns to throw that Sunbelt West into just an absolute chaos.
America's team. Louisiana Raging Cajuns getting it done.
Wait. South Alabama is literally USA.
Yeah, that is true.
Facts. To review, Tom is on San Diego State plus 6.5, the under 37.5 in Air Force Navy. Duh. Kentucky Ole Miss under 54, the under 57.5 in Texas Tech Kansas State, Kansas plus 3, the under 59.5 in Northern Illinois Ball State, the under 56.5 in Central Michigan Toledo, Iowa plus 11, and the under 42.5 in San Jose State Wyoming. I am on UTSA Middle Tennessee over 62.5, the under 56.5 in Oklahoma State Baylor, as well as Baylor minus 2. The over 60.5 in Arkansas, Alabama, as well as Arkansas plus 17.5. The over 42 in Clemson, NC State. The under 42.5 in Michigan, Iowa. Georgia minus 28 and Duke minus 2.5. Danny's got San Diego State plus 6.5. UCLA plus 3. The under 42.5 in New Mexico UNLV. Arkansas plus 17.5. Oklahoma State plus 2.5. Clemson, NC State over 42. The under 69 in Oklahoma TCU, Iowa plus 11, Florida State minus 6.5, and Purdue plus 12.5. Bud's got UTSA, Middle Tennessee over 62.5. Washington minus 2.5. The under 54 in Kentucky Ole Miss. Arkansas plus 17.5. Iowa State minus 3. Clemson NC State over 42. The Oklahoma TCU over 68.5. Georgia minus 28. The Wake Forest Florida State over 63.5. Kent State minus 11. The Auburn team total under 19. And Nebraska minus 4.5. 3, 4. 4 lock fights on the board. UCLA and Washington. That is a Danny Bud fight. Bud is on the Huskies. Oklahoma State and Baylor. That is a Chip Danny fight. I've got Baylor. He's got the Pokes. A Kansas Iowa State fight. That is Tom and Bud. Tom's on Kansas. Bud's on Iowa State. And the Oklahoma TCU total. Danny's taking the under. Bud's taking the over. Moneyline sprinkles. Tom's got Texas A&M, Miami, Ohio, Cal, and Illinois. Chip's got TCU, Illinois, Kansas, and Auburn. Danny's got Purdue, Cal, and TCU. And Bud's on Tulane, San Diego State, Oregon State, and Louisiana Lafayette. Woo! This is how we bounce back. This is how we bounce back. This is what we do. You can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fernelli. You can follow him at Bud Elliott 3. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.